New year, new segment. This is the Angry Birds Bird Minute, sponsored by Angry Birds for their 15th anniversary, where we tell you about a cool bird, which may or may not be angry.
This week's bird is the kiwi, a flightless New Zealand native with a big sense of smell and an even bigger egg. Kiwi are about the size of a chicken, but that's where the similarity ends. This pear-shaped bird has tiny wings hidden under hair-like, fuzzy brown feathers. The kiwi fruit was named after the bird because of their shared appearance.
The nostrils at the end of their long bill help them to detect bugs, amphibians, fruit, eels, and basically anything else they can fit in their mouths. Compared to their body, kiwi have the largest eggs of any bird, taking up just under a quarter of the adult bird's size.
But are they angry? Kiwi can be extremely territorial, using their razor-sharp claws to drive other kiwi away from their established patches of land, often letting out shrieking calls as they charge. On a scale of 1 to angry, we rate the kiwi as angry.
This is Wild Green Streams for Ecological Fiends. I'm Rhett.
I'm Io.
I'm Curtis.
And today our guest is science communicator Lindsay Nikole. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Explain a little more about what you do.
Yeah, so I really liked what I was learning in my zoology classes in college. And when I graduated, it was 2020, mid-pandemic. And I was like, I need to do something with the information in my head. And I just started throwing it on TikTok and liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And so now I just, look up cool stuff about animals and make videos about it, hoping that I can make it a bit more easy to learn than a research paper. And
what was the post that sort of blew up for you and put you on the TikTok map?
That's a good question. There was actually one that I was getting maybe 300 views for the first couple weeks. And then I made this video about tiny cat species. 4 of them. I want to say it was the sand cat, the Pallas cat, rusty spotted cat, which is 2 pounds.
Oh yeah.
And the black-footed cat. And it got 1 million views in a couple days. And I was like, oh my God. But I actually ended up taking it down because there were so many comments of people like, where can I buy these?
Oh.
And I wasn't really familiar with that side of the internet yet. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to contribute to the exotic pet trade. And so I took it down.
That is very relatable. I was playing a D&D campaign recently where I was playing a tabaxi, which is like a cat character based on a serval. And I was looking at pictures for servals and I'm like, too many of these pictures are in people's houses. Stop having servals as pets, please. They are small, but they're not house cats.
Yeah. I've worked with servals in a sanctuary setting. I can't imagine having them in your house.
Yeah, you did a couple internships and stuff you had said with big cats. Well, I guess servals are small cats.
All wildcats.
Wildcats. There we go.
Yeah.
Go team. Thank you. I'm glad that joke landed. I was like, this is going to be a risk, but we're going to take it anyway.
Oh, it just landed. I got it.
There we go. You know what? We got there eventually, and that's all that matters.
It's been a hot minute since I've seen any of those movies.
We're bringing it back.
When they premiered.
But so you say you work with servals. What were some of the other cats that you worked with? And did you have a favorite either in terms of an individual or a particular species where they were either very fun or very cool or very wacky that you're like, oh, this is very interesting?
Yeah, totally. So I've worked with a ton of wildcat species. I'm going to try and go biggest to smallest. Tigers, lions, cougars, leopards, cheetahs, bobcats, servals, medium-sized cats too.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I would probably say that my favorite to work with were cheetahs. In particular, there was one that I worked with in Namibia named Koya, who I ended up naming my cat after, and I have a tattoo of him. I'll show you right here.
Oh, hell sick. Yeah.
Yeah. He was so feisty, and I guess when I first worked with cheetahs, I had never heard them because I didn't really there was no other time I spent around them. They don't roar because they're not big cats. They're not in the genus Panthera. They don't have the ability to roar. So they chirp, they meow, they hiss, they spit. I've been spit at by multiple cheetahs. And I just thought that personality was so fun. And I got to know so many different personalities. And so they're definitely my favorite. Another cat that I can't believe people have in their homes,
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say cheetahs. I also like tigers because they can actually kind of like say hello to you. They do this thing called chuffing, which is like you can like repeat it. It's like like that. And they do that when they're really happy and they're happy to see you. So you walk in and like you're coming up to the enclosure and they're just doing that over and over again. And you're doing it back to them and it just keeps going. And it's just the cutest thing ever.
Oh, that's so fun. I love that. It's like if someone says something funny and like they mispronounce a word and you just say it and then they just say it back and just back and back and back and back and back.
Yes, totally.
I find so many animals don't sound like what you think they're going to sound like.
I just saw a video about cheetahs and koalas specifically. Somebody on TikTok was just talking about animals, that exact thing, animals that don't sound like they sound what you'd think. And yeah, koalas are just like, what?
There's a lot of screaming that goes on in the animal world.
They sound like a human imitating a gorilla, but with like a voice distorting mic that makes their voice even deeper, but also really angry. It's not what you'd expect.
That is so specific, but also very on point.
Yeah, like I can hear it in my mind of like, I know, yeah, a human imitating a gorilla, but like with voice distorted.
It's very evocative.
So, Lindsay, the question on everyone's mind is, does dropping cool sea creature facts in the club actually work as a form of flirting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like it's not a joke. It actually works.
That's
I mean,
take
like,
notes, everybody. If you weren't taking notes already, which you should have been, done your homework and watched all of Lindsay's videos before listening to this podcast. But just in case you weren't taking notes or maybe your pen ran out of ink, go get another one, come back, get a fresh piece of paper.
Yes, exactly. I will say it works better when you don't start with that.
gotta lead your way up.
You gotta lead into, yeah. It can be a bit jarring if you start with it, but there have been a couple nights where I had a bit too much to drink and I just ran up to someone and said something like that, and it was so stupid, and it definitely didn't work. But you have to build up to it, like, oh, you like sharks? Oh, that's so cool. I heard this cool thing the other day. There you go.
So you have to act like a regular human still, but it's a good thing to pull out once you know.
I have to pretend I'm not just like 25 animal facts in a trench coat walking around. And like we're just adding more. Like the trench coat is like it's all weird and lumpy in places just because I keep shoving more facts in there. It's like you should just get a bigger trench coat. And I'm like, we can't.
We can't.
No.
Yeah.
We can't.
We'll just even it out with more facts.
Yeah, exactly. That will make it work.
Yes.
Evenly distributed, you'll have your like really quick fact here and there that won't take up as much space, and then you'll have your super elaborate facts.
Yeah, there's like the one sentence facts, and then the you didn't realize you were about to get a 40-minute lecture for free about this fact.
Yes.
Different.
Those are stored in the center. Yeah.
There is no in between.
Sometimes, because a lot of my friends and people that I know are like wildlife people, so sometimes I forget that like my base level wildlife knowledge is not everyone's base level wildlife knowledge. So then I start saying, I'll say something that to me is just like a casual thing. And someone's like, wait, animals do what? And then you're just like, mind is blown.
Oh my God, yes.
I was trying to identify a shrimp and I was like, these ones have a longer rostrum. And my coworker is just like, nose? I'm like, yeah, nose.
That happens to me a lot, like during the phases of research when I'm trying to explain to a friend why I'm so frustrated. And I'm like, they're talking about, this and blah, blah, blah. And you could just see their face go blank. And it's like, all right, I might as well just talk to the wall because you're gone and that's fine.
Especially when you get deep into it, like when you are so into trying to answer a question, you're like reading research papers about it. You're like, we are so far gone. And like research papers are just like nigh incomprehensible. So that's why we do what we do and you do what you do. So people don't have to go through the research papers. They can just watch your videos and get the exact same information in a much funnier, shorter package.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I hope for. But it has ruined me a bit because there have been a couple books that I've been trying to finish reading about stuff that I'm not qualified to make videos about, like origin of life and consciousness and stuff. And I read so many papers all day that at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to see another word for the rest of the night. Like, I'm just going to put on a TV show. And yeah, I want to find more time to like read for pleasure or whatever, because that doesn't exist for me anymore.
Yeah. And so you're doing this full time now? Is that you're trying to have education and like outreach kind of be your main career goal?
Yeah, so I've been doing this full time since October, but before that I was teaching. So I was still teaching, just in a classroom setting at this private school, private academy. And so it was cool while I was teaching because I would kind of like test out what I was going to make into a short video in the afternoon on my students and see how they reacted to it. And generally the ones that they, liked a lot ended up doing really well. So it was fun to have them to test things out on. But I decided to do full time when I wanted to switch to YouTube, because I was just doing TikTok and Instagram for a bit. And YouTube, I mean, it just requires an enormous amount of time. And I made the switch and it ended up working out really well. And I really enjoy, working for myself, and making these videos is so fun. Like, I would not have it any other way right now.
So what's something you've learned while researching a video that blew your mind?
That was just what I was about to ask.
Oh man, so many things. Okay. I was researching bristle worms, these types of polychaete segmented worms. And one paper just glossed over this species called the green spoonworm. I can't remember the scientific name, but they talked about their reproductive or life history. And they essentially start off as this little speck that is not male or female until they settle in the sediment or elsewhere. Like, they're just in the water column as this little speck. If they land on the sediment, they become a female, but the female will pump out these pheromones to lure in the other specks. And if one of those specks lands on her, it becomes a male. And they just glossed over this in the paper. And I was like, what? And it ended up becoming its own video, because I just couldn't believe that I learned something that cool, and so separate from what I was already reading about in a paper. That's probably the number one thing.
This sounds extremely niche that we have a response to this, but polychaete worms are so crazy. We were just talking about in our chat that some species, at least, they go to reproduce and they just freaking explode. Like, they turn into dust. It looks like it's like in Marvel when
The
Thanos snaps and
they
then
just
they all
disappear.
That's exactly what these things do. It's insane.
They're so gnarly, and they're just one example of how diverse reproduction is on this planet. And it just makes you think about, like, what else do we not know about? Because there's plenty of species that we have described, but we don't know anything about their reproductive habits. And it's just crazy. And epitoke in particular is kind of like weird to me, because there's a couple different ways that it happens, but it seems like they just use the same word to describe it. Like, in one way, it's, the little segment kind of exploding, like you were talking about. But then in some species, it looks like little clones that just butt off their tail end and then kind of pop off.
Interesting.
So it's so weird. And it's like, that's just in one, group of worms.
Right.
Worms are so weird. There's just too many animals to possibly ever know everything, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try.
Yes. We're sure gonna try.
We still got pockets in this trench coat. We are gonna be shoving facts in there until we can't possibly anymore.
We can sew on some more fabric. We're good.
Exactly. Like, I got a sewing machine. We got, like, I can steal a cloth napkin from next door at the restaurant, and like, we can just do it right here, right now.
I literally carries facts around with them.
I like pull them out. It's like they're like fortune cookie pieces of paper. They just like spill out. There's this go down rabbit holes sometimes where I think of, like, okay, the species that we know about, and then like our collection methods are biased towards catching some species, and I'm like, they don't even take into account other organisms, but probably because we don't even know what the other organisms are, or there's some like a lot of deep sea marine ecosystems I'm just like fascinated by, because we know so little. And like, we know that like Greenland sharks exist. Do we know like how they reproduce, like not necessarily, or like we've seen giant squids like only 2 or 3 times, and it's like crazy how little we know about them, that there's just so much more to discover and learn.
Yeah. I love looking at it that way. Like there's so much more to learn because so many people are scared by the fact that we don't know like a lot about the deep ocean or whatever. But we get to live at the time that we're going to learn about it. And our perception of the entire world is going to change during our lifetime because of how fast technology is advancing. I mean, that's not good in some ways, but in terms of discovering things, it's so cool. And we just get to watch it unfold.
Considering the number of iterations I have seen of Spinosaurus just in my lifetime, I'm just like, what else is coming down? Like, we have no idea. And I'm just like, I can't wait for like whenever the new Spinosaurus drama is that like drops next week. I'm like, I am so excited to like,
Yes.
because I know some people are like, oh, it doesn't look like it was when I was a kid. I'm like, no, we're like actually learning more about these things and it's more accurate. So our understanding of the past is more accurate. It's just so fun.
Right.
find
To
it
find
so
out
funny
that
when
you were
people are-
wrong about something means that you just learned something new, which is cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find it so funny when people phrase it like it's not like what it used to be. I was like, it always was that.
Yeah.
We're just
It was like that whether you knew it or not, and we just didn't know it yet. And then
No, it is like what it used to be.
yeah.
That we know of.
Yeah, as far as we can tell.
So
that we know
far.
of your catchphrase.
Right.
David Attenborough voice for now.
Yes.
Have you ever played the video game Spore?
I've heard of it and I've been wanting to play it.
Oh, it's like from 2008. They never like followed it up and like made a better version, which is like unfortunate because it's like made in 2008, so it like is a little clunky to like run now. But the way that it starts is with the idea of panspermia, where like a meteorite crashes into this planet and there was like life on it, and like it was like the perfect like cocktail to learn about it, and you like become a creature, or you start as a cell and then you evolve into a creature and then you become a tribe and a civilization and go to space, which like probably, I mean, I already liked animals and science when I was a kid, but like that probably just like jump started it. But like when someone described that to me, I was like, oh, just like in this video game. I like, but like the people who created the video game probably knew about this concept, and but me, little young me, like didn't know about it. But I was like, oh, that's like a fun way that I like learned something without even realizing that I had learned it, which is like kind of at least what we try to do with the memes that we have in our group. It's like, this is going to be a funny joke, but like you're going to learn and you didn't even know it yet. So
Right.
like sneaky.
That reminds me of when people are like, this caterpillar looks like a Pokemon. And it's like, well, where do you think they got the idea? It was a thing before a gaming company was like, we could apply this concept to something fictional.
Nature clearly ripped off a Pokemon.
Which came first, the Pokemon or the caterpillar?
That's a good question.
The world may never know.
It really makes you think. No one's asking these hard questions.
So another question we had, just because your videos about them are very humorous, was how often do people DM you asking for bug ID? Because it definitely happens to me, but it's like my aunt in another state where I don't know any of the insects or spiders will just be like, is this poisonous?
It happens too much. Like, it happens all the time. And sometimes they're sent to my management email. And so my manager is like, what is this, Lindsay? Because now she's interested. It's funny because like, I mean, I'm not well versed in bugs, in insects. It just, like if somebody sends me something really interesting, it's either I just already happen to know about it, or I have to do this whole Google search to figure out what it is. Yeah, it happens a lot. And I do like making videos about that because I think it's fun, And I've had some comments, people like, no way people are asking you to identify bugs. You're making this up.
It's like, I wish I was. I'm really not.
Literally, I wish I
So
was making this up.
It became so frequent in the Wild Green Memes group that we made a no ID request rule, yet they still pour in. So believe me, how real it is to be constantly inundated with random people across the world providing no additional context other than what is this?
The blessing and the curse, the mantle that you have to bear if you have any kind of wildlife knowledge is every single person who knows you, who knows that you know about animals, is going to ask you about some other animal, even if you have no idea.
Mhm.
Like, I know a good bit about plants and about animals, and people ask me a lot about insects because I know a decent amount about it, I like to think. But people will be like, what mushroom is this? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you. Or
Right.
they send like the most out of focus, poorly lit, blurry photo, and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, I don't know what state you're in. I don't know
Yeah.
what country you're in right now. Like, if you could provide a little bit of context, like maybe even some habitat would be even better. But just like,
I get that with snakes a lot. I think because people are kind of scared to get close and because they move a lot and they move really quickly. So the photos that I get from friends and family are usually about the worst I could possibly imagine.
or when people, they don't even have a picture, they just text you like, I saw a large bird. Do you know what it is? And I'm like, do you have anything else to go off of?
Yeah.
At the same time, I am glad to be known as a person who has wildlife knowledge. Like, I'm glad that this is the reputation or the aura that I put out, even if sometimes I'm like, this is like, you could have taken this in a dark cave with like a bag over your phone and like it would have been the same thing and I couldn't tell. But I'm like, at least you thought of me.
There was some TikTok that
Right.
Hank Green made. Someone asked him, how do you know so much about so many different kinds of science? And he said, I don't know anything about any of this science. I just Google it before I make the video.
Yeah, he said he's
Literally.
really good at Googling.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I don't know. Like, I'm really happy that people know me as somebody who knows all this stuff. The amount of worms, though, I know some people probably are like, that worm girl on TikTok, that worm girl on YouTube, and that I'm not really comfortable with. But I'm still gonna keep making the worm videos because people like them.
And also, there's just so many of them. Like, there's a lot of them.
A lot of
There's a lot
different
of
kinds
worms.
of worms too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just like they were like, this body plan works. And I'm like,
Yes.
you're not wrong.
Yeah, we all talk about crabs. Nobody's talking about worms and trees enough.
Aren't there like 12 different phyla of worms?
At least.
Yes.
Probably.
Something
And
like
then
that.
like if we want to get a little out there, like vertebrate equivalents of worms or like convergent snakes. It's
Legless
like all over
lizards?
the place. Like
Yeah.
fish
Mhm.
alone, it's like 90% of the stuff that it's like that looks like an eel. Well, it's not. Just
Yeah.
worm is superior to crab and tree is superior to worm. That's my hot take.
Long tube, no leg is actually peak physical performance. Like, you
That
may
is
not
the
like
ideal
it.
body form.
Yeah, this is the
Yes.
ideal body type. Long skinny tube with no legs, no arms.
We just need a mammal with no legs, no arms.
Yeah, it's
I'm trying to think about
can you
that.
imagine worm on a string?
Why
Well,
isn't there
string,
one? That's really interesting.
I mean, whales have
They're
They've got flippers.
some like moles and shrews are very well. Weasels are they're kind of long.
I guess
They're on
have
their
legs.
way.
that's a stretch, and we both know
It's a
it.
stretch.
Yeah, I feel like weasels are. I feel like this is the closest we've gotten. This is this whale from the Eocene or something,
Yeah.
Babylosaurus, where it's just like you're just like a very, very long whale. That's,
Hmm.
I mean, it's still got hind limbs, which whales don't have. So I guess it's not quite worm yet. But yeah, some sort of like ferret without limbs would be hilarious. And speaking of exotic pet trade, that would be so popular.
Or like if they're in the water, like otters are like kind of close. They do still have
Yeah, I
legs
see
though.
that.
So like maybe
Yeah.
in like a couple 100,000 years we'll have otters that have no legs, and then we will have achieved peak mammal.
Yes.
That is something that's
Or
going to keep me
birds.
up at night.
Yeah.
Feather boas. Feather
Feather
boas.
boas.
Feather
But
boas.
it's an actual bird.
I guess maybe if you had like a really long necked bird that was mostly neck.
Does all neck.
Just like
It's just
like
neck.
a very flexible egret.
Yeah. Or green herons, when they like are scrunched down, are really small, but then they stretch their neck out. It's like, how did you have so much neck? It's packed down in your tiny body. Yeah.
Birds kind of freak me out.
Classic.
Really?
They
Yeah.
are dinosaurs.
They are dinosaurs. And they definitely, to me, look like dinosaurs sometimes.
You know what's the most obvious dinosaur bird crossover is any baby bird. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
really apparent that that thing is still a dinosaur when you look at the babies.
Yes.
Yeah. I think I saw it way back on like some Tumblr post where it was a photo of a baby heron that was like not quite a chick. It was like halfway to being an adult, but like still didn't have all its feathers. So you could see its weird dinosaur body. And someone was like, if you're wondering what happened to the dinosaurs, this is it. And someone was like, this baby blue heron killed the dinosaurs. Which, knowing blue herons, maybe they did.
They would if they could.
They would if they could.
I'll support that.
So, Lindsay, if people want to see your stuff, where do they go?
You can go to TikTok at Lindsay Nikole, YouTube, same thing at Lindsay Nikole, Instagram, Lindsay_Nikole, because they wouldn't give me Lindsay Nikole.
Oh, man.
I also have a coloring book, 2 coloring books, one with deep sea specimens and one with spooky specimens on Amazon. You can check out in my link tree, which is at all of my accounts. I also have Patreon at Lindsay Nikole as well.
We'll link to all
Excellent.
those things in the description of this podcast episode. Until next time, thanks for listening. You can find Wild Green Memes' Patreon at patreon.com/wildgreenmemes. We give out merch every month, and also we'll put your name on the end of the podcast when you sign up. Until
Maybe
next time,
the merch will be a fortune cookie with facts in it. You never know.
maybe it's a good idea. Until next time, I'm Rhett.
I'm Io.
I'm Curtis.
I'm Lindsay.
And happy Year of the Raccoon.